everybody. I'm Murv Seymour, comedian, and you're listening to Pavlina's Kidz Place.
Hey everyone, this is Pavlina from Pavlina's Kidz Place, and I'm here in Jacksonville, Florida with comedian Murv Seymour. Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you.
Awesome, great.
I'm so excited to be here. This is so cool.
Oh, thank you, yeah.
I've never had anybody just randomly say, hey, I want to interview you.
Oh, really?
No, it's never happened.
Really? But you're like an award-winning journalist. Like, you've never had that?
Well, I mean, I guess I have when you put it that way, but in terms of like just, somebody wanted to talk to me about comedy and stuff like that, probably not, no.
Oh, well, cool. I'm glad I'm the first. So, like I said, you're an award-winning journalist, which is a totally different job than a comedian. So how did you change over like that?
Well, it's interesting. You know, I believe in following passions in life, and so I've always had a passion, one, to write and to communicate, and I've also had a passion, just having fun. So I've always had fun. So I've always wanted to be a comedian, even after high school. It was about the time it all started. But I ended up going to college and got a degree in journalism and followed my journalism career. And then I just really never had time to pursue comedy. And I had a little window in 2000 where I could kind of go off and do some of the things I'd always wanted to do. So that's kind of what happened. But, humor has always been a big part of my personality anyway, which a lot of people don't think of that in terms of doing the news, because you don't get a chance to be funny in the news all the time.
Yeah.
There's nothing funny about some of the horrible things that happen. But humor has always been a big part of my personality.
That's good. Awesome. That's really cool, though. So most comedians that I've talked to, take us like a slice of their life and they'll talk about it. Is that what you kind of do?
Absolutely. I believe in building an act that's personally based on things that I've experienced. So I talk about growing up in Mississippi. I talk about being in the news business and all the silly things, how they tell you how dangerous something is, and they tell you, we're going to be there live.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's, oh, no, we're not going to be there. I'm going to be at home where it's safe. And so I just take things, anything that makes me laugh, I write about, and I really try to keep everything personal to me. I don't overly, talk about other people. I talk about events, I talk about current affairs, but I don't really talk about people, because that's not what I do as a person. And ironically, comedy is at the expense of someone or something, and, so I just try to avoid, like I would never talk about overweight people, but I talk about myself being overweight a little bit, but I wouldn't talk about somebody else being overweight. I just talk about myself. So that's kind of how I build my act.
Well, that's good then. Yeah, that's cool. So, were you always funny, like even as a kid? I
mean, you can't ask me that. You got to ask my friends. No, I've always had a good sense of humor. I've always been able to look at things and find humor in them, whether it's not having any money and praying, using my faith, saying, dear Lord, thank you for all that you've given me. And if you can find some time to put some meat on the table, that'd be great. And so I've always seen humor in things, because I prefer to laugh about something than to cry and complain about something. So it's definitely a natural part of me.
Definitely, that's good then. Awesome. So growing up, kids have all kinds of obstacles. So what kind of obstacle did you have, and how did you overcome or deal with it?
Oh my goodness, how much tape do you have? They don't even use tape now, do they? How much disk space do you have there? I'll tell you, I grew up in Mississippi, which is notoriously known to be, one of the, more challenged states in our union. Education and all kinds of other things, and my mom was able to to get out of there, and I was raised by a single mom. And I also have a brother who's in prison and been in trouble, and I've also found a lot of other different things that I've had to kind of overcome. So my belief is I take responsibility for my life, and I don't really make excuses. I just do the work. Not everybody's going to have the same chance to have, a car when they're 16 years old, or an iPhone, for goodness sake, and those sort of things. So I just focus on myself and try to set my own standards and not really follow, because when you do that, you're not really in control all the time, because we're all going to have something we're going to have to overcome. And so we just have to kind of be in control of ourselves and make sure that we're setting the path that we want that's best for us.
What are like some places that you've always wanted to perform?
Ooh, some places I've always wanted to perform. I would love to perform at the Historical Comedy Store in Los Angeles. It's one of the places where all the great comedians got their start, and I have not had a chance to perform there. I've been there, but I did not have a chance to perform there. I'd love to perform at Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
I know it's a great artistic venue, and I know the people that come there love the arts. And there's a lot, the Fillmore in San Francisco, another
Yeah.
great venue for live performance. And I really enjoy, the intimate venues where it brings out the true, comedy fans. And, those are just some of the ones that I know of, and I know there's tons of others, but there's a lot of different cool venues out there.
Yeah, definitely. That's
Yeah.
awesome. You've got this really cool instructional DVD that shows you how to be like a stand-up comedian called Road to Stand-Up. And, I've never really been like a funny kind of person, but if I ever wanted to be like, wow, I want to be a stand-up comedian, what would be like my first step?
I mean, you have done your research. Who are you?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, watch out, Barbara Walters. I mean, incredible. Road to Stand Up is something that I put together a few years ago, and it features Billy Gardell, who's on the Mike and Molly show, on CBS, and my good friend Alonzo Bowden's on there, and both those guys are real good friends of mine. So I would say the first step is really to find an open mic in your area, and just think of 5 minutes or 3 minutes of something that makes you laugh, something that brings out of you. Don't overly think it. Don't overly whatever. Just think of stuff that makes you laugh, and then just go up there and talk about it. Because the first step of really getting involved in stand-up comedy is to just get up there and do it.
Exactly.
Now when I started, I didn't have any tools I wrote jokes for almost 20 years before I ever even went up on stage, not knowing anything about the structure of how to do a joke and that kind of thing. And people don't realize, there is a structure to it, regardless of if you're Robin Williams, if you're Richard Pryor, if you're George Carlin. It doesn't matter. There's some people do it more naturally, and then other people, have to be taught, how to do that. And not everybody's gonna be funny.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that, but there are tricks and trades that people use to do that, to get laughs. And as you grow into it, you definitely want to be able to, define yourself, personally, as opposed to being a generic comedian. You want to have your own identity. I mean, people know me as, the news guy, because I talk about the news business a lot, because that's that's a big part of my life experience. So I would say the first thing I would do, aside from getting Road to Stand Up at MurvSeymour.com, would be to just get your butt up on stage. To forget about the fear. Don't worry about what's going to happen, because nothing's going to happen. You're going to go up there, you're going to have fun, and it's going to be an incredible experience, and then you're going to want to keep doing it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So, where can some people see like some of your upcoming stuff? Like, what other plans do you have coming up?
Well, I mean, basically right now, comedy is anybody that does comedy. Most will tell you that you kind of have to do some other things to be able to do it. Because it's a pretty tough road, financially. So, I am involved in a three-pronged lifestyle. I do media consulting. I help businesses get media exposure, through television, because I've done that so long, and I know what television stations and newspapers are looking for. And I've also got a documentary film that I just released called Killer B3, and it's about the Hammond organ, and that's being shown at film festivals all over the country right now. And comedy, my time is split these three ways. So I pretty much travel all over the country doing stand-up comedy, and the best way to really keep up with what I'm doing is pretty much to go to the website, MurvSeymour.com, or to find me on Facebook. I tend to update the Facebook quicker or easier, because it's just so much quicker to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, and I'm, this weekend I'm in Jacksonville working, here at Latitude 30 for the Bonkerz Club. I do a lot of stuff for them. So all the stuff they do in Florida, you can look for me in those places. And I go to Milwaukee to perform up in Milwaukee at least once or twice a year. And pretty much any place they'll have me, that's where I'll go. But I'm not doing it as full-time as, as some other guys are, because I've got my life is kind of split in these other two areas as well.
Well, definitely. That's cool, though. Well, thank you so much for talking to me.
Well, I appreciate you coming out and talking to me. This has been so cool.
Thank you.
Tell me a joke. Say something funny.
You joke? Oh, my gosh. I'm not funny.
Oh, come on. You're making me laugh right now.
What? No, you tell me jokes.
I don't know any jokes. I don't tell jokes. I just tell stories.
Okay, well, then tell us.
That's like one of the things that people always ask comedians, tell me a joke. And that's like the worst thing to do. We don't like doing that. We don't like that. Don't ever ask us that. And if a comedian does tell you a joke when you ask him to tell a joke, then that comedian, well, shame on him. He's breaking the code, because we don't do that.